Even though there is no true science to crafting comedy, it seems to crop up a lot in the horror genre. In fact, some of the most gut-busting moments in the history of cinema occurred in movies tailored to haunt our dreams. Bizarrely though, some laugh-out-loud moments in horror were never actually intended to be humorous. A ropey special effect, an obvious continuity error, or a badly delivered line can turn a potentially terrifying sequence into the funniest thing you've ever seen. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 horror movie scenes that weren't meant to be funny, but were. Number 10. Michael Myers uses a gun. Halloween 4: Return of Michael Myers. John Carpenter's Halloween single-handedly popularized slasher movies, and because many films in the genre couldn't compete with Halloween in terms of pure terror, they overcompensated by relying on excessive gore and over-elaborate deaths. Because of this, Michael's hacking and slashing in later movies seemed a bit plain, inspiring the filmmakers to give the masked killer more inventive ways to dispose of his prey. But more often than not, these methods of execution were, well, stupid, let's face it. In Halloween 4: Return of Michael Myers, the titular psychopath corners a woman called Kelly with a shotgun. As he points the barrel towards her, viewers expect the mask-wearing mute to blow her to kingdom come. Instead though, he stabs her with a gun. He drives the weapon straight through Kelly's abdomen with such force, pinning her to the wall. Although this kill is meant to subvert expectations and show off Michael's superhuman strength, it is too ridiculous to take seriously. I mean, come on Mike, we know that you love stabbing people, but you've got a freaking shotgun here. Surely pulling the trigger at a point-blank range is a much easier way to kill Kelly than to shove a gun through her. Number 9. Sleeping Bag Prophecy. In Friday the 13th Part 7, Jason Voorhees kills a camper by whacking her body into a tree trunk while she's nestled in a sleeping bag, and this is often regarded as Jason's funniest kill, and was even done again in Jason X as a callback. However, there is a sleeping bag-related kill in the film Prophecy that is way funnier. In this 1979 horror, the Nelson family go camping only to discover that the woods have been infected by toxic chemicals. The radiation has caused animals to grow in monstrous size, form, and ferocity. And while sleeping, a bear-like monster called the Catadin attacks the Nelsons, forcing them to scatter, and the young Nelson boy Paul panics and hops away while still in his zipped-up sleeping bag. Sadly, the bear smashes Paul into a rock, killing him instantly. Even though we should be horrified to see a child being murdered by a grotesque monster, it's impossible not to laugh after watching Paul jumping like a worm on a pogo stick. The shot only lasts about a second, but it ruins any chance of this scene being the slightest bit scary. Number 8. Tabanga. From Hell It Came. From Hell It Came begins with Prince Chemo being sacrificed by his tribe after being convicted of murder. But after the island's radiation infects his corpse, he's resurrected into a deadly creature called Tabanga. Consumed by rage, Tabanga goes on a killing spree. As far as B-movie plots go, this is very standard. Also, From Hell It Came is a great title that is sure to tickle cinephiles' interests, and based on that title alone, viewers probably imagine that Tabanga to be something like a towering demon or a subterranean beast, right? Well, instead, Tabanga is a wooden stump. Even though his big reveal is meant to be petrifying, you will laugh when you first lay eyes on this monster. Not only is a malevolent tree a ridiculous idea, his costume looks utterly terrible. The nasty trees from The Wizard of Oz look scarier than this. Hell, the monster on the poster looks more frightening. Also, the actor portraying Tabanga, Chester Hayes, waddles so awkwardly in every shot, he looks like he's trying not to fall over. Although there are many infamous movie monsters like Robot Monster of the Giant Claw, Tabanga definitely deserves to be at the top of that particular list. Number 7. An Axe to the Head. Friday the 13th. Even though Friday the 13th has tons of creative kills, the way that Kevin Bacon's character goes out in the original is still regarded by many as the best death in the franchise. It's simple, it's brutal, and it looks surprisingly convincing even by today's standards. But ironically, the first installment also has one of the dumbest deaths in the long-running franchise. When Marcy hears a strange noise, she opens the curtains to inspect her surroundings. When she finds nothing, she reassures herself by saying, "It must have been my imagination." But after turning around, she's confronted by the axe-wielding murderer. Paralyzed by fear, she lets out a blood-curdling scream as a blade comes down on her face. With a hatchet buried into the skull, Marcy's corpse slides to the ground. Now, although deaths like this are usually ruined by a prosthetic head or a rubber axe, Marcy's death actually looks authentic. But the scene is ruined by her reaction, or indeed the absolute lack of it. After the axe is embedded in her cranium, she doesn't look frightened at all. Instead, she looks bored or mildly annoyed at best, as if she's thinking, "Oh no, I've been killed." Number 6. The Polite Parasite. Brain Damage. In Brain Damage, a young man called Brian discovers a leech-like creature has become latched to his brainstem. The creature tells Brian that it will pump his mind with juice to make him feel euphoric if he's fed human brains. Brian is reluctant at first, but ultimately agrees when the creature forces him to experience crippling withdrawal. Not only does Brain Damage have an interesting premise, it has a ton of very creative and disgusting imagery. Fungus growing on skin, tentacles spewing out of people's heads, the creature sucking out brains. This underrated B-movie has it all. But ironically, the one thing that's never scary about this is the monster itself. With his goofy eyes and shoddy appearance, he resembles a rejected puppet from Sesame Street rather than a movie monster. But what's more bizarre is how the creature talks. Being a creepy brain parasite, you'd assume this critter would have a ghastly voice. Instead, it speaks in a calm and rather polite demeanor, as if he doesn't want to gorge on every brain that he sees. Although you have to commend the filmmakers for giving this creature a distinctive appearance and voice, it never comes across as frightening. Number 5. Projectile Vomiting, The Exorcist. It's safe to say that there is no horror film with more iconic moments than The Exorcist. The power of Christ chant, the twirling head, the spider walk. It's all well known amongst horror fans, and that last one didn't even appear in the final cut. But another defining moment is when our favorite priest first meets Reagan, who is possessed by the demon Pazuzu. The demonic entity taunts the priest, claiming his mother is in here with us. Knowing Pazuzu is lying, he asks him what his mother's maiden name is. Enraged that the priest saw through this ploy, Pazuzu defiantly spews vomit all over his face. It's ironic how memorable this part is, considering that it detracts from the whole confrontation. After watching the pea soup-colored puke spray all over our protagonist, we should be left shocked and disgusted, right? But the timing is so sudden that it's just plain funny. It feels more jarring considering everything else in the scene is played straight, and it becomes unintentionally hilarious. So you can understand why the projectile vomiting bit has been parodied a lot over the years, more so than any other scene from The Exorcist. Number 4. Crawling Away, The Thing. Now, there are tons of scenes from The Thing that live rent-free in horror fans' minds. Even though the dog mutation scene, the blood sequence, and the climax will stick with viewers, nothing is embedded in our minds more than the defibrillator scene. After Norris passes out, Copper readies 2 defibrillating pads to restart his heart. As he places the pads onto Norris's chest, it caves in, revealing the innards have been transformed into monstrous teeth, which rip Copper's arms off. This moment is nearly impossible to forget since it's so unexpected and just downright gross. But there's one aspect that nearly ruins everything. After MacReady incinerates the Thing, its head disconnects from its body in a last-ditch effort to survive. After the Thing head sprouts spider legs and antenna-like eyes, it begins to crawl away. Even though the extraterrestrial often moves in an erratic and, well, rather alien manner, the comedic way it trots out of the room will make almost anyone chuckle. Considering this moment of levity is probably the funniest part of the movie, it's a little odd that it happens immediately after the most terrifying and gruesome death. Number 3. That Reaction, Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead is often regarded as the weakest entry into the original Dead trilogy. However, the third outing in George A. Romero's classic franchise definitely has the best opening. In this sequence, we see our heroine Sarah cautiously walk towards a stone wall. As she reaches it, dozens of zombie arms burst through it, frightening the hell out of Sarah as well as the viewers. The scene is so great that it was actually used for the film's initial trailer. Even though this is considered one of the best movie teasers ever, there's one detail that kind of screws things up. When the zombie hands try to grab Sarah, she contorts her body in such an unnatural way, it's like she's intentionally overacting. Like, who would ever react that way if they were confronted by zombies? Or in any perilous situation for that matter? Did the director tell her to flip her body like that? Was that actually the best take? Now, most people don't register Sarah's reaction the first time they watch this moment since they focus on the zombies, but once you notice the weird way that Sarah jerks back, it messes up a potentially flawless scene. Number 2. He Just Keeps Screaming, Sleepaway Camp. Friday the 13th inspired a slew of slasher movies that revolve around serial killers prowling through summer camps in search of potential victims. Although many of these copycats have not stood the test of time, Sleepaway Camp has become a cult classic, mainly because of its mind-blowing twist. As is expected, the film revolves around teenagers at a summer camp who are being hunted by an unknown psychopath. Our first victim, Artie the cook, meets his end after the unseen murderer knocks a pot of boiling water onto him. As a staff member rushes in, we see Artie wailing in agony before we cut to the next scene. At least that's what should have happened, right? Instead, the camera lingers on Artie, screaming his lungs out for 40 seconds. Every time the music dies down, you assume that the scene is over, but no, Artie was just taking a break. After a few seconds, he starts yelling again, and the annoying thing is that the scene would have been disturbing if it ended moments after Artie was burnt. Instead, it just keeps going and going and going to the point where it resembles a scene from a horror movie spoof like Scary Movie. And number 1, cut in 2, Blood Rage. Blood Rage has all the workings of a decent slasher. The kills are delightfully creative, the prosthetics used for dismembered limbs are thorough, and the gore is on full display. However, every murder in this horror flick falls apart for just one reason, and that is timing. Now, while watching, it's obvious that the filmmakers believed that it would be scarier to see as much hacked off heads and blood-spurting wounds as possible. As a result, the camera lingers on nearly every kill, making the fake blood and rubbery prosthetics look distractingly fake. And nothing demonstrates this fact more than how Dr. Berman meets her demise. Using a machete, the serial killer slashes the doctor's midsection, cutting her in two. As her intestines hang out and her bottom half twitches, she writhes in agony before dying. Since this is a truly haunting way to meet one's maker, this kill could have been iconic if done right. If we saw a snippet of her helpless flailing, this moment could have haunted our memories forever. Instead, we watch the actress overacting for a whopping 11 seconds. Now, 11 seconds doesn't sound long in the real world, but it is an eternity in horror. Also, in the midst of her flailing, the actress adjusts her hair not once, but twice. Considering half her body has been lopped off, it's hilarious to see that she is still trying to look good. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 horror movie scenes that weren't meant to be funny, but were. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules, and you can go follow me over on Instagram at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope that you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? Like love, happiness, and success, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. You're a massive ledge, and I want you to go out there and smash it today, because I believe in ya. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.